again, that is our push every spring. Actually, we started in, I think, January through June, because every single year, parents need to go back on, and I'm not trying to blame parents at all, I don't mean it like this, but we can only do what we have information from. If you do not update your contact in Power School and all your demographics every single year, I do it as a parent in my district, we're going to be sending all of the messages to numbers that aren't getting to you. So that's just an example of just Clover Street having 99 failed, yes, you're correct, emails, phone messages, text messages, failed attempts that we don't know that you're not getting. So Gianna was then going to work with our IT department to see if we could dig down even deeper to really get the specifics of what is wrong. What was the failed? Was it a number? Was it a text? Was it an email? And then, I mean, we literally just have to start calling families one to one and saying you need to update your information. Yes.
Thank you. I know last year I had sent you a detailed listing of what I got and what I didn't get.
Right.
And I was hoping that you would be able to look deeper into it. And I know we did update our data. Sometimes we get it and sometimes we didn't. So I just wanted to share that with you. So, and you have that list, so maybe you can dig deeper into it. So, thank you.
Were you done? I didn't want
So,
to cut you off. Let's hold questions till she's done.
Sorry.
Not a problem.
So the other question that I asked each school was, one, who sends it out? Is it you or your admin assistant? Two, when you send the robocall message out to the families for the late buses, what time are you doing it? Is it morning? Do you then send another message? Because I think the bigger issue is when we get that extra at 7:30 or 7:45, now the bus is even later. And that's where I think some of the hiccups are, and what I'm seeing, they're not seeing that email because their day has started, students. And so I think that is where some of the delay or issue may be, if something is coming in after that initial email at 6 a.m. And then in the afternoon, all principals, we don't really have the issue on letting them know ahead of time in the afternoon, but all the principals were very vocal in saying, we get all the information from DACO, so on all our buses, because I asked them, I said, are there other buses that are late continuously? And I'm not talking 10 minutes late here and there. I'm talking a significant amount of time they're late that you don't get those emails from, and they all said no. So when you just kind of triangulate the data, our issue is, one, the contact info, and two, that email that's sent after that 6 a.m. time for that elementary route. So we have to do a better job, one, drivers reporting that to DACO, because that's number one. DACO doesn't know unless the driver updates them, and there is issue there. Two, us looking, like making a conscious effort, make sure we're looking, or maybe we need to then send those emails to, central office, to our transportation coordinator, and maybe she does that next level, because the schools are already rocking and rolling, and their day starts. I'm done now.
Okay, questions, I guess, first on bus, and then we'll ask questions for Dr. Hill. So, other questions regarding the DATCO issues? My only comment here is, obviously there's different places where there can be errors, and I think we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can as a district vis-a-vis our own staff, to make sure that, obviously this was a whole new thing about how many miscommunications there are. So I would hope there'd be an effort district-wide to let parents know that there are many people, without identifying anybody, just until you start digging into who are those different people. If you can identify them, remind parents in different ways to make sure their information is correct, with cell phone numbers, landline numbers or emails, everything is correct, and to check Power School periodically to make sure everything is up to date.
So what I can say, and I'm not trying to say anything against the technology department, they send it in nauseam, like in nauseam. Like it's almost every other day email. If you don't, as a parent, I would actually encourage one of you not to fill it out at the start next year, just so you can see, so you can understand the amount of communication that's done through the school.
It was extra this year, I felt like.
Communication to, yeah, so and then we actually go the extra mile. We start having admin assistants call too. We do pick up the phone and before even school starts and having them call every single parent that has not updated their Power School registration.
Okay, other questions for Dr. Hill? Ms. Claes?
I don't know if it's a question, but maybe it's just a role for the board, since we all have a liaison relationship. Maybe we can get this back to councils and PTOs too, and help a little bit and help get the message out, update info.
That's a great idea. Mr. Panos?
Just one, Ms. Batchelder, the idea of each bus having a GPS, so that if someone wanted to check where the bus is on their own, as say, then is there any is that available to parents?
So DATCO, I mean, this isn't something I would normally update the board on because it's just an everyday operation, but because of everything that's going on with DATCO. So DATCO is currently migrating to a new system, which hasn't been great either. So we've been dealing with that internally of getting them up and running on this new system they have implemented. They wanted to implement it as of July 1st. They didn't make that deadline. Then they said October 1st. We did all our stuff. And so since October about 6th through this Friday is what I'm told, they're kind of limping along. So right now there's actually not a place where parents can go and look to see where their stop is.
Yeah, because
I've written to the owner actually last week because I was all done with Windsor Terminal. I reached out to the owner of DATCO and he responded very quickly. And then one of the VPs responded after that. And they are promising me by this Friday that system will be up and running, and that the parent portal will be up and running, and so will our admin assistants at the school level be able to see buses, because we can't even see that right now. So that's above and beyond any issue you guys even knew about that I've already been trying to deal with. But, I'm not happy at all. And they know that. And we've reached out to other districts too, because some districts have already converted to this new software. And it's interesting how they're getting a lot better service than we are, in my opinion. And I'm not going to make judgment as to why. I have my own opinions, but it's a difference. And so now that's just another level or layer that I'm dealing with on that end. But to your question, so this new system, once it's actually up and running and working, we can then have that type of app that you're talking about, Mr. Panos, for parents to be able to actually pull up and see where their bus is. The only issue with that is if any bus ever gets combined, which we have now because of our shortage of drivers. So say bus 12 and 15 for Clover are getting combined tomorrow morning. Those parents of those kids on those buses won't be able to use the app that day because they can't make that flip quick enough. But
So
all
the
other
parents
buses.
that may need that information the most won't have it.
But on the flip side, in the afternoons where we don't double up, where we're actually going and then coming back and going and coming back, they'll be able to see where the bus is and how long until they get there.
I just point out that it's in the contract that they will have GPS systems. It's one of page 23.
So they have GPS systems
Yeah, we
already
have this already,
for,
but,
that's
yeah.
how we track when, someone from the community says they're speeding or they missed a stop. That's how we check that. And we also have a geo fence new this year, which is how I was able to distinguish whether we crossed into East Granby. They can pull every second or minute the bus is, and that's how I had that detail from that communication.
Thank you.
Ms. Claes?
I was just wondering, when that app gets up and running, is it available, is that what, at other languages? So is there like translation on the app?
I'll ask that. That's a great point.
Any other questions for Ms. Batchelder or Dr. Hill? Seeing and hearing none. Next item is 8A, Windsor High School Program of Studies 2023 to 2024, a first reading.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed changes to the Windsor High School 2023-2024 Program of Studies for a first reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Panos. And at this point, I think we're going to have our presentation.
Good evening. So we don't have a formal presentation for you today. As you can see from the document in front of you, this year we have over 20 pages of proposed changes. So instead, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed changes to the Windsor High School Program of Studies for school year 23-24. As I've mentioned, we have a lot of edits or revisions this year. And so we've organized the proposed revisions into 3 categories: additions, changes, and deletions by department. So instead of a formal presentation or presenting each change line by line, I will present a very high-level overview of the proposed changes, again, by additions, changes, and deletions, and then I'll give the floor to Ms. Dana Fudge, who is our supervisor of counseling, for questions. So I'll get started with the overview of the proposed additions for the 2023-24 school year. So we've added a brief description of the Mastery-Based Diploma Assessment, which is a graduation requirement that was put in place by the Connecticut State Department of Education for the class of 2023. We've added a few courses, including Firefighter 1, which is co-taught by certified firefighters. We've also added multimodal academic composition, as well as advanced math decision-making. In the CTE department, we have a number of additions. We have added a career cluster list and infographic, and this is because the CTE department has done a lot of thoughtful work over the last year to both standardize course titles and descriptions, as well as adopt 12 career clusters to help students develop a course of study and link what they learn in school to the knowledge and skills that they will need to be successful in careers. So the 12 Windsor career clusters align with the 16 national clusters, as well as most of the Connecticut career clusters, and are as follows: architecture and construction, arts, AV, technology and communication, business management and administration, education and training, finance, health science, hospitality and tourism, IT, manufacturing, marketing, STEM, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. So that sums up the additions that we are proposing for the 23-24 program of studies. Moving on to changes, there are a number of minor changes to course descriptions across departments. In addition, there are a number of course name changes in the CTE department to standardize course names and clarify course sequence. So for example, under graphics, previously the course titles were graphics, applied graphics, and advanced graphics. So we are proposing that we change this to graphics 1, 2, and 3. And again, that's just to help standardize course names and clarify course sequence for both students, families, and counselors. We've also removed the references to the old career clusters, and we have updated them with the new 12 Windsor career clusters that I just went over. And finally, the special education program descriptions have been updated to provide more program information and also read prereq recommendation of PPT. And so that concludes the overview of the proposed changes. And then finally, for the deletions, we have removed the previous graduation requirements as they were for the class of 2022 and now outdated. We have also removed the African American and Latinx history, and that's because it has now been replaced with the state required course. And we have also removed Latin 1 through 4. So now that I have provided a high-level overview of the additions, changes, and deletions, I'll now turn it over to Ms. Fudge for any questions that you may have in regards to the 23-24 program of study changes.
And my suggestion is we kind of go page by page. If people have things in the first few pages, including, you know, I like the idea of the way the clusters are done and the pathways. And I was talking to Ms. Fudge beforehand, before we started the meeting, that was great. So, wants to start it off with any questions? Ms. Cantor?
Thank you, President Fury. Good afternoon or good evening, Ms. Fudge.
Good
I do have
evening.
a few questions on the firefighting
Okay.
class. I was wondering if you could tell me, where does the practical experience take place? What is the duration for the practical experience? And is there continued practical experience with weekly testing, like the frequency for that course?
So the course,
Ms. London might be able to ask. I mean, tell me that.
I'll yield to her first, and then I'll.
okay, so the course is actually taught at the high school. Someone from the fire department is coming in, and they are working with our identified teacher, who is actually also working with them to teach the course to our students. The practical work, it actually comes to them. Like I think today, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the fire truck there. The kids were actually in uniforms. They were getting everything explained to them. So it's actually being brought to them, to the classroom, to the building. So everything gets done right there for them.
Will they have the opportunity to go to the fire academy or one of the fire departments to do any training there?
Yes, so I'll just add, if you don't mind jumping in. Yes, so there are definitely career-connected experiences that will be embedded within the course. This is the first time that we're running the course, so it's a pilot, but I can say in speaking to the certified fire instructors that they are absolutely planning to have field experiences, so, you know, training trip and then over to the firehouse, things like that. So yes, the majority of the learning will take place at Windsor High School, but there will also be opportunities for off-site learning and practical experiences as well.
Great, thank you.
Yes, and they would also like to obviously add more components, different, opportunities for the kids. This is just the first
Mr. Lockhart?
first stop.
There's definitely a practical component to this where they're using one of the, I don't want to say extra engines, but we do have spare engines in town just in case one of them go offline. They are using an actual engine. They're actually getting the practical skills by everyone that's hands-on with them from the fire department, are certified fire service instructors. They do have the appropriate training to provide this. In order for them to go into the fire academy, though, we may have resources come in to interact with the kids, but for them to actually go into the fire academy, they would have to actually join a particular fire department, whether it's paid or volunteer, and go through the process of that town to be able to go into said training. But this is definitely a baseline of what they would actually see, actually hands-on, bunker gear, gloves, actually going through. The only negative is that once they get started, they got to wrap it back up because it's only one block. So we may have to retool and redeploy this and maybe think about this being a double block at some point for them to get the full impact. But as of right now, it's hands-on, and they get treated like we get treated. So they understand what's going on.
Great, thank you.
It's clearly the kind of class that's an advantage of having block schedules, though, versus having a 45-minute class to
Absolutely.
do that in. Other questions? Mr. Panos?
Is this, what, you mean, on anything?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going page by page.
Well, we are.
Did you?
We are, but you don't have anything on the first page?
Oh, we're still on the first page. I missed something. Let me go back to the first page, and we'll start all over
I
again.
was on page 19 personally.
Yes.
No. Okay, fine.
Mr. President, to you?
Yeah. Again, on the career clusters, I think, I like the way this is organized so that students have an idea by looking at, if they look at this, hopefully they will, and they have a certain interest to see what are the kind of related classes that they could take. I think I was mentioning before to you that we're not ready to be a Cheney Tech, but we want to have the opportunities, and the board has expressed that have more opportunities for different pathways early on, because many students may decide, we want to make sure if they want to go to college, whether it's a 2-year or 4 years, they can do that and not have to, go to Snuntuck or Manchester Community College and take remedial classes. We want to be able to know that our graduates can get full credit towards college by going to a 2-year school. But this also may pique their interest of going to a technical college
Absolutely.
afterwards to see these. And again, the importance too is really with the guidance department, to talk to students and talk to parents and about these different pathways that exist. And I know I'm excited about the way this has been organized.
Absolutely, so are we. So I think this would not only help the students and the families, but it would help my counselors as well in guiding this discussions with students and families about the opportunities and the pathways. So I think it's going to help all around for all of us.
The same thing, when we, talking to Ms. Taylor the other day, a lot of the schools in Hartford are somewhat themed. It's still called Buckley High, it's still called Hartford High School in Weaver, but each one has they're not regional schools anymore, or area schools that you
Absolutely.
can decide if you want green technology, you're going to go to Hartford Public for that. And if you're interested in nursing, you go to a different school.
Yes.
And so this gives us those opportunities, so.
Yes, it does.
Very excited about that. Other questions? Anything on the program of studies? Mr. Lockhart?
Mr. President, I guess seeing here no other questions, I guess if I may ask through you, can you ask the minority leader, would he be open to a substitute motion to waive the second reading?
Nah.
He's going to come back with a lot of questions tomorrow.
Oh, no.
That's it. No, I mean, I thought we were going to go through, I do have a few questions here.
Well,
If you could just,
Well, if you want this to come back in November, I'm okay with it, but seeing that there's been no commentary, Mr. President, I figured it would be in the best interest of
Well,
the
that-
board and administration to waive the second reading.
no, you're misinterpreting the silence. The reason why there is a second is because we're nonplussed here. Let me just ask a few,
Maybe if
Just
he
to
gets
get you
the
going
answers
here.
he's looking for, we'll be able to make that motion.
I tried.
could you just clarify?
Yes, you did.
Maybe you could just clarify a few things.
Yes.
Like, what's MBDA mean? What?
That is the mastery-based diploma assessment.
Okay.
So that is one of the new graduation requirements for the class, starting with the class of 2023, the 25 credits, they have to complete a credit in a mastery-based learning assessment. So for Windsor, it's several courses identified that would meet that actual criteria. There's a rubric, a special rubric for those courses, and students that take that course, they will follow the rubric with that teacher, and if they complete the course, earn the credit, and they will have satisfied the requirement for MBDA.
Right, I saw it, on the website, on some website
Yeah.
somewhere, and I didn't quite understand, but it's an actual course that we did.
It's
It
courses
sounds like an
that,
assessment, and
Yeah.
then but it's a course. And
so what it is, every school district had the opportunity to come up with what they were going to use to meet this graduation requirement. Some schools came up with actual course. Some schools identified certain courses that we already teach that can meet the requirements. Other schools came up with whatever they decided on to meet that requirement. So for Windsor, we identified several courses that are already being taught that we felt by adjusting the rubric, we could meet the requirement for this mastery-based assessment. So it's
But they
not,
don't have to take a special course.
not a special course, no.
Some kids do. But
Not at our school. This is just other
Oh, not at
districts.
ours.
Not at
Oh.
our school. At our school, we have identified several courses. If they take these courses, then it will go towards the requirement for MBDA. It's not a separate course. It's already courses that we offer.
is it kind of, it's an idea, it gets towards the idea of a comprehensive in order to get a diploma? Is that the idea?
Yep. It's the idea that all students learn differently and to give them an opportunity to learn at their own pace and so it's at their own level of learning.
Okay. Some of the courses you have here are, are listed, but but you say the course is not being offered, for example, and then, so, you have, it says you change the course title or something like this, and it's here, but it's not being offered. Why is it not being offered?
So
it's-
if a course isn't
in-
being offered, usually they swap courses from year to year. Each department, they have so many electives to offer, they can't offer everything every year. So they kind of, one year will offer certain courses, and then the next year they don't offer it and offer the ones they didn't offer. So it's like a trade-off each year as to what they're going to offer.
Okay. On a math question, page 12, if you're following here, I'm looking at the math section change at the bottom of the page 12, the second from the bottom, remove students who fail a course, quote, students who fail a course will continue to move on to the next course in the sequence, as well as recover the credit for the failed course.
So I think what that
I
means.
actually didn't quite, what does the as well as?
So what
here
it
mean?
means is a student will be able to continue on in their math sequence and recover the credit through like Ingenuity or something like that. So they're not going to be held back from not being able to move on to their next math course
Okay,
because they didn't pass a math course. They can, while they're taking their next math course, be recovering the math course that they lost.
but it doesn't, okay,
says it's-
so it does not mean that if and only if they recover the credit, they can, they take the credit recovery course and don't pass it or something. Can that happen? I don't know. If they,
Well, the only way you don't recover the credit is if you don't do the work to recover the credit. So they have ample opportunity to recover that credit. They are offer opportunities up until they are graduating to recover that credit. Obviously, if they never do what they need to do to recover the credit, then that jeopardizes their opportunity to graduate. But we offer ample opportunities for them to recover the credit they lost. Whether it's through summer school, during the school year, they have opportunities.
and so this change here that you have, which it says, this only applies to Algebra 1 and Geometry. Right, so this whole math section, this is being removed. So I'm trying to understand what the change is. Can you-
So what's being removed is just the statement. They don't want the statement any longer.
And because they don't need it, because after all, who
Yeah,
cares?
they don't need the statement any longer to be.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that makes sense. You have a, on the concert choir,
Concert choir?
yeah,
For music,
page 14 at the top, says add concert choir as the high schools, it says course description, and it goes on to say, what was it before? If you go to the previous page, page 13 at the bottom, says, course description change, gospel choir. Remove prerequisite, 1 year concert, choir, and audition.
So They no longer want you to have to audition to be in the gospel choir. So anyone can join without having to have had concert choir before. The prerequisite was you had to have had concert choir and you had to audition to be in it. They're taking that away now. So you don't have to audition any longer and you don't have to do the year of concert choir ahead of time. So she just wants that prerequisite removed. She's offering more opportunities to get more kids into the program.
So anybody can do this. You're
Anybody
trying to
can
say-
do it.
If there's,
As long as
if there's room in the choir,
yes, students only.
This is a welcoming church.
Yes, she's offering more opportunities for more students to be able to join.
The Bible does say, come as you are, but you have to change.
You have to be able to hold a tune.
I mean,
A little bit.
they accept frogs or something.
You got to be able to hold a little. You got to be able to hold a tune. You got to be able to hold a note.
You don't even have to know the note.
No, you got to be able to hold a note.
Hold a note. You got to be able to sing a little bit.
Wait a minute, that's a prerequisite?
It can
Hold
be
it.
horrible, but you got to hold it.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, boy. So, Ms. White agreed to this?
Yes, she was the one that wanted it.
She's a miracle worker.
Okay, I know.
She wanted
She
it.
is good. Yeah.
All down for a solo.
Okay, moving right on. Page 14, in the, under science,
Did you say 19, sir?
14.
14.
It says course description, physics, CAP. And it says
Yes.
add prerequisite calculus or concurrent. This course is equivalent to an introductory mechanics course for university students majoring in physics or engineering. The emphasis, though, is on electronics. The description is for electricity and magnetism, not introductory mechanics.
Yes, so that's the course description that we had for physics CAP. So we're just adding the prerequisite, and I just put the rest of the description of the course there. So
Well-
that is
Well,
what is taught.
my only confusion was that the description fits electricity and magnetism, which is the second half of a survey physics course, whereas mechanics is the first semester. So it says here, the emphasis for a mechanics course is an understanding concept of electrostatics, conductors, that's all, that's electricity. He's talking mechanical. So I think you've got to change the description here.
So I can check into that. I'll speak with the STEM supervisor for this
Right.
And see what
There's
she
no
says.
oaks.
But it's also not being offered because of the fact that we now offer the AP Physics in mechanics and an AP Physics class in electromagnetics. So we have two separate courses now that are being taught. So
Right.
this course particularly hasn't run, I think, in the last few years, which why it says at the bottom, it's not even being offered, and it hasn't been offered in the last few years. But I will check
But
into
just-
the description.
just-
Yes, absolutely.
Just check with the science. Let's see. You have, well, I guess this is okay. You have on the next page, page 15, course description change, chemistry, add prerequisite from C minus or better, algebra 1 to prerequisite algebra 1. I guess this is a change, maybe. It is recommended that students receive an average of a C minus or higher in algebra 1. Is that what the change is? It's changing from a prerequisite to a recommendation?
So we're adding the prerequisite in because it wasn't there. So they're adding in the prerequisite of a C minus or better in algebra 1 to prerequisite of we're changing it. So yes, it is an update. It's just the updating of the wording is different, but it pretty much kind of says the same thing, but it's just the wording is different. They're changing up from a recommendation to a prerequisite.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
it's from the recommendation to the prerequisite?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're just
that's
switching
what
up the
I-
wording.
Look, and my my poor
I know.
reading ability looked it backwards.
lot.
I read it backwards, I guess. I don't know.
You're human.
I was gonna say, I am not.
Yes, a lot of the changes are just changing of wordings from things to say recommendation to prerequisites or vice versa. So just a lot of changing of the words.
Okay. There's even this, something similar here is going on with the environmental science to, what is that qualification?
Yep, pretty much the same thing in that one as
Okay.
well. Yep.
And then you have the other prerequisite. I think those are most, let's see, I don't have any complaints about the special ed. Now, you, let's see here, remove the prior, let's go to the deletions here. It says, remove the prior graduation requirements.
What page you want,
This
sir?
thing over here.
Page 20?
It's page 20.
Okay, thank you.
So this class of 22 had only 20, the requirement was only for 23? And
Yes.
so, okay,
It's
so
been
you're
increased.
removing this?
Yes,
And
'cause-
what you have listed
Absolutely,
here
because we now
after
have the
is
newer
25?
graduation requirement. Yep.
Oh, okay. And now, you explain the removal of the African-American and Latinx history because we have the state.
Because we have the new
requirement.
state required
Now,
course.
was this African-American Latinx history the same one that was put in about 8 years ago?
This was put in a few years back. I don't know exactly if it was 8 years ago, but it was offered as a course prior to the new state required one that we got approval for last year to offer
Right,
for
I
this
just
year
was
moving
wondering how
forward.
many years it had been.
Been there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think what? Yeah, oh, okay, all right. So it really is old? We'll drink to that. That's it. All right. The other one in here is comparative government and government and politics. Is this just something that is phased out or not needed? Was
So, actually-
it's not popular or something?
No, what it is actually is we don't even offer the course. So at some point, it got added into the program of studies, and it should not have been. This is not a course that we're offering right now. We do offer a government course, but it's not this one. It is actually AP US Government and Politics that we offer. So I don't know what year this got put into the program of studies, but I recognize that it was there and needed to be removed because we do not offer it at the high school. And it's not even listed under the course description. It's just listed under special programs like ECE AP, where we list what courses we offer, and that's the only place that was found listed under the section about AP courses we offer. It was in there, but it's not under social studies or anything like that as a course description. So it was just somehow entered in there as an error, and I'm just having it taken out.
Okay, I think I don't know if we're going to look at this anymore. Do you think we'd have any reason to look at this and compare it? It's kind of difficult to review this, checking, on the screen. It would have been a lot easier if I had a book, that say,
Okay.
can we get a book with Sally? Sometime, I would like to, in order to be able to look at it. So I don't know if there's really anything that I have anything to add to this. So maybe we could go for the second reading here, if you really want to.
If
You really should, I bet we should obey the rules sometimes.
Actually, I am obeying the rules. That's part of our bylaws, where we have the right to waive a second reading with the approval of the board.
But before we do that, I do have one or two questions. The first is on page 11.
See? What did they tell you?
I thought Mr. Panos was going to be asking all the questions that I had, so I was flabbergasted here that I actually may have one or two that weren't covered. The first is at the top of the page, course description change, the STEAM guitar project, a sampling of technology, education in the arts, add courses not being offered. Is this one just not being offered currently? I know it was a very popular, STEAM guitar
Currently.
was one of the most popular
It's just currently not being offered.
We do not have is that because we don't have a teacher, or?
That is part of the problem. And also, I believe some funding was part of the issue with money needing to be, So we didn't have the money for the course that needed to get the equipment and things that were needed, and then a teacher.
Okay.
So it's not being offered right now for those reasons.
And the second question, it does have to do with the same page, or pages 11 and 12, the math sequence.
Yes.
I mean, historically, we've had Algebra 1, then Geometry, then Algebra 2.
Yes.
So what was the reason for the change?
So I have that right here for you,
Okay.
because I had to ask them myself. So the new model will now have, that students will have learned all of the Algebra 2 skills that covered in SATs when they take the test. So now they will have the knowledge that they need. So my understanding is Algebra 1 to Algebra 2 is more logical in terms of content, scope, and sequence. Plus, when students take geometry, they can now have higher level of algebra skills, so they could be successful in the geometry class. And they have been limited to using Algebra 1 skills. So this change will help them. So that's kind of why their reason is. I wasn't sure either, so I had to ask because I knew somebody was going to ask me that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hundreds of years of the sequence
And
probably
they're
gone
switching
in
it
an
up.
instant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lockhart, are you going to? Oh, Ms. Cantor, okay.
Emulated here.
I just wanted to thank you on that because I know it is more beneficial to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and then geometry.
Absolutely.
And then move into your pre-calc and your statistic courses.
Absolutely.
And that, so I just want to thank you. And then it gives other students, the ones that are really into the rigor, the high achievers, the opportunity to take that. I know some of the other kids are taking 2 of those in the freshman level. So then they can take the next year, the sophomore, they'll be taking junior,
Absolutely.
and then so forth. So, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Lockhart?
Mr. President, I
Well-
offer, let's see, I offer a substitute motion that the Board of Education approve the proposed changes to the Windsor High School 2023-2024 Program of Studies for a first reading and waiving the second reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos, to have a substitute motion that would include that this is not only a first reading of the program of studies, but waiving the second reading.
Correct.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 900.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It only cost us 20 minutes.
Hey, Mr. Lockhart, I think you might be up again.
I do have another motion, Mr. President.
Yes.
I move that the Board of Education move agenda item 8B, discussion of the WASA contract, to after item 11, which is audience to visitors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Did Nathan say aye?
Yes, he said aye.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries 900. Committee report, item 9, committee reports. I believe there are no committee reports. Item 10, matters, announcements, regular Board of Ed meetings. 10A, Board of Ed special meeting, Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, 6:30 PM in LPW boardroom. 10B, Board of Ed Curriculum Committee, Thursday, November 10th, 2022, 4:30 PM. That's going to be held virtually. 10C, next regular Board of Ed meeting is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, at 7 PM in the boardroom. Next item is audience to visitor. Alexis? Thank you, Ms. Batchelder.
Good evening. This is Alexis Shack from the Superintendent's Office. If there is anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in 2 different ways. If you are using the Zoom application on your mobile device or computer, you may enter your comments into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar. Or you may raise your hand on your computer if your device has a microphone by selecting the participant's icon on the Zoom menu bar and then clicking Raise Hand, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. When you are called on, you will be promoted to panelist. After you make your comments, you will return to attendee status. For clear communication, we ask that you do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own.
Thank you. And as we had for the previous audience to visitor, at the 2.5 minute mark, Vice President Lockhart will hold up a red card, and at the 3 minute mark, he'll keep that card up. And if the person is on a phone line or doesn't see on a Zoom call, Mr. Lockhart will intercede and let them know their time is up. Is there anybody online, first of all, who wants to address the board?
Mr. President, there are no individuals with their hand raised.
Okay. Anybody in the boardroom who'd like to address the board? Seeing and hearing none, without objection. If you could come to the.
I just want to talk about DACO. No, I'm just.
Yes, I think you should come up here because there was not enough discussion about that tonight, so.
I'm so sorry.
We needed that, though. Thank you.
I'm not going to state my name.
Seeing and hearing none other, I'm going to close audience to visitor and look to another motion. Mr. Lockhart.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education enter an executive session to discuss the WSASA bargaining contract. We invite Superintendent Dr. Terrell Hill and Director of Business Services and Human Resources Daniel Batchelder into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 900. We are now heading to executive session at 8:41. I don't think we need to bring anything.
No.
We have the contract with us.
It's here.
It's here.
Guess we could bring it.
Yeah, bring up the, yep.
The contract is in the packet.
In the packet.